So now we discuss history. Now come to here Pakistan resolution. Now the page 492 spectrum rules. Okay, my name is Surya Kumar Dakwa. Sorry, let's start. So Pakistan resolution Lahore 1940, March 1940. The Muslim League passed a resolution calling for a grouping of geographically continuous areas where Muslims are in majority north, west, east. Okay, into independent states in which constituent sorry in which the constituent units shall be autonomous and sovereign in and adequate safeguarding to Muslim where they are no minorities. Okay. So here Muslims are in of geographically contiguous areas where Muslims are in majority northeast, northwest, and east. Into independent states in which the constituent units shall be autonomous and sovereign and adequate safeguards of to Muslim where they are in minority. So August offer Hitler's astounding success and the fall of Belgium, Holland, and France put England in a conciliatory mood. As the war in Europe had undertaken a new turn, the dominant Congress leadership was again in a dilemma. Both Gandhi and Nehru strongly opposed. Both Gandhi and Nehru strongly opposed the idea of taking advantage of Britain's position. The Congress was ready to compromise, asking the British government to let it from the interim government during the war period. But the government was not interested. Okay, the government come up with its own offer to get the cooperate of India in the war effort, leading to announce the August 1940, which proposed dominant status as the objective for India, expansion of Viceroy's Executive Council, which would have a majority of Indians who would be drawn from their major political parties, setting up of a constituent assembly after the war, where mainly Indians would decide the constitution according to their social, economic, and political conceptions. Okay, subject to fulfillment of the obligation, subject to fulfillment of the obligations on the government regarding defense, minorities, child rights, treaties with states, all India services, etc., and no future constitution to be adopted without the constituent consent of minorities. So no future constitution to be adopted without the consent of minorities. So responses. The Congress rejected the August offer. Nehru said dominant status concept is dead at a doornail. So Congress rejected the August offer. Nehru said dominant status concept is dead as a doornail. Gandhi said that the declaration had widened the gulf between the nationalists and the British rulers. The Muslim League welcomed the veto assurance given into the league and reiterated its position. That position was the only solution to the deadlock. Evolution for the first time into the inherent right of Indians to frame their constitution was recognized, and the Congress demand for the Constituent Assembly was considered dominant status was explicitly offered. In July 1941, the Viceroy's Executive Council was enlarged to give the Indian a majority of 8 out of 12 for the British for the first time, but the British remained in charge of defense, finance, and home. Also, a National Defense Council was set up with purely advisory function. Individual Satyagraha. The government had taken the adamant position that the no constitutional advances could be made till the Congress came to an agreement with the Muslim leaders. It issued ordinance after ordinance taking away the freedom of speech and that of the press and the right to organize associations. Toward the end of 1940, the Congress once again asked Gandhi to comment. Gandhi now began taking steps which would lead to a mass struggle within his broad strategic perspective. He decided to initiate a limited. So here, June 1941, Germany attacked Russia, and Russia is dragged into the war. December 1941, Japan attacks the Pearl Harbor. March 1942, after having overrun almost the whole Southeast Asia, Japan occupies Rangoon. So it is now we discuss is so now here you now come Satyagraha on individual basis by the few selected individuals in every locality. It aims to launching in the individual Satyagraha, that is the true circus, to show the nationalist preoccupation was not due to weakness, to express people's feelings, and they are not interested in the war, and that that they make no distinction between Nazism and the double autocracy that ruled India, to give another opportunity to the government to accept Congress demand peacefully. The demand of the Satyagrahi would be the freedom of speech as against the war through an anti-war declaration. If the government did not arrest the Satyagrahi, he or she would not only repeat it but moved into villages and start a march towards Delhi, thus participating in a movement which come to be known as the Delhi Chalo movement. Bhabe was the first to offer the Satyagraha, and Nehru is the second. By May 1941, 25,000 people have been convicted for individual civil disobedience. Gandhi designates Nehru as the successor. The Congress leaders later to release in December 1941 in the midst of Japan's aggressive action and were annexed to defend Indian territory and go to the aid of the allies. The Congress Working Committee overrode Gandhi and Gandhi's and Nehru's objections and passed a resolution offering to cooperate with the government in the defense of India. Full independence was given At the words, such a substance of power was transferred immediately. It was at this time that Gandhi designated Nehru as his chosen successor. Nehru and Gandhi differed in temperament and attitudes, okay, towards modernity, religion, God, state, and sorry, industrialization. Nehru was indifferent to religion. Gandhi believed deeply in his own version of God. Nehru believed that industrialization was the only solution of the state across the widespread poverty of India. Okay, while Gandhi called for the reviving of the rural economy, Nehru believed that the path of the modern state to elevate and reform the society. While Gandhi was skeptical of state power, trusting instead to the conscience. conscience. So here you can see. So here Gandhi was skeptical of state power, trusting instead of the conscience and willingness of individual and the communities, despite having so many differences. Nehru revered Gandhi, and Gandhi in turn believed in Nehru more than his own son. Both teacher and discipline had fundamental similarities: patriotism in an inclusive sense. They identified with India as a whole rather than with a religion. Both believed in non-violence and democratic form of government. Again, Rajmohan Gandhi, in his book The Good Boatman, writes that Gandhi preferred Nehru to the alternative because he most reliably reflected the pluralist, inclusive idea of India that Mahatma himself stood for. The alternative Patel Azadji Kripalani Rajendra Prasad had somewhat sectional interest and affiliations, but Nehru was a Hindu who could be trusted by Muslim, a North Indian who had respect in South India, and a man who was admired by women. Look, like Gandhi, Nehru was genuinely an all-India leader who gave Indians hope that they could build a more prosperous and peaceful society. Cripps mission in March 1942, a mission headed by Stafford Cripps was sent to India with constitutional proposal to seek Indian support for the war. Stafford Cripps was left-wing Labourite, the leader of the House of Commons and member of the British War Cabinet, who had actively supported the Indian national movement. Why Cripps mission was sent? Because the reverses suffered by Britain in Southeast Asia. The Japanese threat to invade India seemed real now, and Indian support became crucial. There was pressure on Britain from the Allies USA. There was pressure on Britain from Allies USA, USSR, China to seek Indian cooperation. Indian nationalists had agreed to support the Allied cause. Its subsequent war was transferred immediately and complete independence given after the war. The main proposals of the mission were as follows. An Indian Union with a dominion status would be set up. It would be free to decide its relations with the Commonwealth and free to participate in the UN and other national bodies. After the end on the war, a constituent assembly would be converted to frame the new constitution. Members of this assembly would be partly elected by the provincial assemblies, the proportional representation, and partly nominated by the princes. The British government would accept the new constitution as subject to two conditions. Any provinces not willing to join the Union could have a separate constitution and form a separate union. The new constitution making body and the British government would negotiate a treaty to afford the transfer of powers and to safeguard racial and religious minorities. In the meantime, defense of India would remain in British hands and the Governor General's power would remain intact. Departures from the past and implications. The proposals which differed from those offered in the past in many respects. The making of the constitution was to be solely in Indian hands now, and now mainly in Indian hands as contained in the Augusta Hall. A concrete plan was provided for the Constituent Assembly. Opinion was available to any province to have a separate constitution, a blueprint for India's partition. Okay, free India could be but here is some problem now. The depressed classes thought that partition would leave them at the mercy of the caste Hindus. The Sikhs objects that partition would be take away Punjab for them. The explanation that the proposals were meant not to supersede the Augusta but to clothe general provisions was which were precision cost vision cast doubts on the British intention, the incapacity of Creeps to go beyond the draft declaration and the addition of the rigid take it or leave it attitudes added to the deadlock. Creeps who had earlier talked of cabinet and national government, but later he said that only meant of an expansion of the executive council. The procedure of accession was not well defined. The decision on succession was to be taken by resolution in the legislature by 60% of majority. If less than 60% of members supported it, the decision was to be taken by a plebiscite of adult males of the province by simple majority. The scheme weighed against the Hindus in Punjab and Bengal if they wanted accession to the Indian Union. It was not clear as to who would implement and interpret the treaty affecting the transfer of powers. Okay, Churchill, the British Prime Minister, Emery, the Secretary of State, Linlithgow, the Viceroy, and Ward, the Commander-in-Chief, consistently torpedoed Reeves' efforts. Talks broke down on the question of the Viceroy's veto. Nehru pointed out that the existing structure of the autocratic powers would remain, and a few of us will become the Viceroy's liberate camp followers, and took up canteens, and the like. Stepford Cripps returned home, leaving behind the frustrated and embittered Indian people, and who thought still sympathism with the victims of fascist aggression, felt that the existing situation in the country had become intolerable, and that the time had come for a final assault on imperialism. Winston Churchill, I have not become His Majesty, his first minister to perceive over the liquidation of the British explorers. So here, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, the offer of Cripps really gave us nothing. Okay, if we accept his offer, we might have cause to rule it in future. In case the British went back on the war, we should not even have a justification for launching the fresh struggle. War, okay, had given India a opportunity to achieving their freedom. We must not lose by depending upon Mary promise. Abdul Kalam Azad. Congress stand on World War One. Okay, it would cooperate in the war effort. Freedom was given to after the war. Some from genuinely a responsible government was immediately set up. February 1939, World War II broke out and Britain declared India's support for war. February 10 to 14 1939, the Congress Working Committee and Wartha Gandhi was for unconditional support to Britain's war. But Subhash Bose and leftists were taking advantage of Britain's difficulty and starting a mass movement of dislodged colonialism, and Nehru recognized the imperialist nature of the war, but was against taking advantage of Britain's difficulties, even as he was against Indian participation in the war. So the Congress Working Committee resolved no Indian participation unless freedom is granted. Government should declare its war aim soon. Lilith statements, October 17, 1939, Britain's war aim is to resist aggression. All interest groups are to be consulted to modify in 1935 Act. All interest groups are to be consulted to modify in 1935 Act for future. Immediately, a consultative committee is to be framed for advising concern. So here the Congress responds: no Indian support to the war. Ministers in provinces to resign, but no immediate mass struggle to be launched. 1940 Pakistan resolution passed at Lahore sessions of Muslim League. October 1940, Dominion status to be long-term objective. After the war, Constituent Assembly to be formed, comprising mainly Indians. Minorities concerned to be essential for any future settlement. Congress rejects the offer. October 1940, Congress launches individual Satyagraha to 25,000 Satyagrahis. Court arrest. March 1942, Japan reaches Rangoon and having overrun almost the whole of Southeast Asia. Cripps Mission 1942 March. It offers an Indian Union with dominion status and with right to withdraw from Commonwealth. Afterward, a Constituent Assembly elected by provincial assemblies to frame the Constitution. Freedom to have any province unwilling to join the Union to have a separate agreement with Britain. Meanwhile, defense of India to remain the British hands. The Congress subject dominion status rights of provinces to succeed. No immediate transfer of power, retention of governors general supremacy. The Muslim League objects to Pakistan not being explicitly offered the machinery of creation of Constituent Assembly. Next we discuss Quit India movement and demand for Pakistan. So here this page is mistake now. And now we start. There was a pressure on Britain. Okay, analyze this. Okay, the main aim here now we discuss it. So you can see it. So we discussed it. You can see. So thank you, friends. Next week discuss another topic.